Okay, 3.3. Finding real zeros of polynomial functions.
Mr. Rice's.
Real zeros. Okay, real zeros of polynomial functions. Now, when you guys were in elementary school, you did long division, yes? Or you had like, let's say you had like 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, and you're dividing by 5. And you said 5 can't go into 1, but 5 can go into 10 2 times. And you brought it down, bring this down. 5 can't go into 1, so you put a 0. 5 can go into 10, and you get 202. Okay, that's without a remainder. So, long division. We're going to talk about how to do that with polynomial functions. So let's say that we did do this last year, yes. In fact, I'm teaching it right now in my Algebra 2 class. So let's say you have 6x cubed minus 19x squared plus 16x minus 4. You're going to divide it by x minus 2. Now, here's what you're going to do. Because this has two sections to it, an x and a negative 2, it has 2 units to it, that means when I go to divide, I'm going to have my first number line up over this x squared. So you ask yourself, how can I get x, what do I multiply x by to get to 6x cubed? What would you multiply x by to get to 6x cubed? 6x squared, yes, 6x squared. So I take 6x squared, put it there. 6x squared times x is 6x cubed. 6x squared times negative 2 is negative 12x squared. You are subtracting those. When I do that, I get 0 here, and I get negative 19x squared minus negative 12x squared. What's negative 19x squared minus negative 12x squared? Negative 7x squared. Then you have to bring this down, and you come on back, and you ask, how can I get x to negative 7x squared? What do you multiply by? What do you multiply x by to get negative 7x squared? What do you multiply x by to get negative 7x squared? Negative 7x. So I have negative 7x times x, negative 7x squared. Negative 7x times negative 2, positive 14x. You subtract those again. When I subtract negative 7x squared minus negative 7x squared, I get 0. When I subtract 16x minus positive 14x, I get 2x, and I bring down the negative 4. Then you ask yourself, how do you get x to 2x? How do you get x to 2x?
Here's my pass.
Thank you. How do you get x to 2x? What do you have to multiply by? By 2. So then I add a 2, and I say 2 times x is 2x. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, and this comes out as a real 0. So, when you are finding the real zeros with polynomial long division, I now have this going on. This is a 0 here that you divided by. So you now have x minus 2, and you have 6x squared minus 7x plus 2. You are not done. You have to factor this if it's factorable. Okay, so I have x minus 2, and then I'm going to have 2 sets of parentheses. One clearly is going to have a 2, and one's going to have a 1. Now we need to figure out what that leading coefficient is. I need something to multiply to give me 2, which is 2 and 1, but add to give me negative 7. You have a leading coefficient of 6. So if I take my leading coefficient of 6 and my end number, those are the multiples of it. These are the multiples of 6, okay? 1 times 1 is 1, 6 times 2 is 16. That won't work. But if I do 6 times 1, I get 6, and 1 times 2, that gives me 6, 5, 4, or it gives me 8. That won't work. 3 times 1, this is out. 3 times 1 is 3, 2 times 2 is 4. That could work. So if I do 3x and 2x, and I make both of them negatives, I would, when I FOIL, get negative 7x, and I would get a positive 2. So then I have all of the solutions, or all the zeros, because I'm going to then set each of these equal to 0 and solve. This one becomes x equals 2. This becomes x equals 1/2, and this becomes x equals 2/3. Here are all the zeros of that function using polynomial long division. We are going to do a couple more polynomial long divisions, and then we are going to do some synthetic division. Okay. Let's say you have 8x cubed minus 1, and you want to divide it by 2x minus 1. So I have 8x cubed minus 1, and you want to divide it by 2x minus 1. How do you set that up in long division? It is, yes. And 8x cubed minus 1 is on the inside. However, is there a squared in here, and is there an x?
Oh, it's a cube.
There's a cube, but do you see a squared or an x that follows it? No. So you have to put placeholders for those of 0. So when I rewrite this, I'm going to say 8x cubed plus 0x squared plus 0x minus 1. If you do not put the placeholders, you are going to get the wrong answer. Okay? So you ask yourself, this is 2 units, so I'm going to go 2 deep. How do I get 2x to 8x cubed? What do you have to multiply by? What do you have to multiply 2x by to get 8x cubed? 4x squared. So 4x squared times 2x is 8x cubed. 4x squared times negative 1 is negative 4x squared. You're subtracting these. This gives you 0. I have a subtraction minus 4x squared, so it changes it to a positive 4x squared. Bring down the 0x. Okay, how do you get 2x to 4x squared? What do you multiply by? 2x. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times negative 1 is negative 2x. You subtract again. Those cancel. This once again makes it a positive. Bring down the negative 1. How do I get 2x minus 1 to 2x minus 1? How do you get 2x to 2x? What do you multiply by? No, 0 gives me 0. What? 1. You multiply by 1. So I get 2x, and I get minus 1, and I'm subtracting those 0 plus 0. So my solution so far is 2x minus 1, and then I have 4x squared plus 2x plus 1. Okay? Now I have to see if I can factor that. Can I factor that polynomial? So my leading coefficient is 4, which is 1 and 4, or 2 and 2. My other number is 1, which is just 1 and 1. Okay. 1 times 1 and 4 times 1 cannot get me to 2. 2 times 1 and 2 times 1 cannot get me to 2, so that's not factorable. So x cannot equal 1/2. I get it from there, right there. X cannot equal 1/2. And that's my final solution on this stuff. Okay. Now let's look at one that has a remainder and then we'll do some synthetic division. Let's say here, divide 2x to the fourth. 2x to the fourth plus 4x cubed minus 5x squared plus 3x minus 2 divided by x squared plus 2x minus 3. Okay, so we're going to set this one up. We go 4, 3, 2, 1, none. So that's easy. I don't have to put any placeholders. 2x to the fourth plus 4x cubed minus 5x squared plus 3x minus 2. Dividing it by x squared plus 2x minus 3. There are 3 units here, which means I will start 3 units deep. How do you get x squared to 2x to the fourth? What do you multiply x squared by to get 2x squared? So I say 2x squared. 2x squared times x squared is 2x to the fourth. 2x squared times 2x is 4x cubed. 2x squared times negative 3 is negative 6x squared. You subtract those. You get a 0, 0, and you get a x squared, and then you bring down this 3x. How do you get x squared to x squared? You multiply by 1, right? Okay? You multiply by 1, which means it goes over here, because everything that you multiply by has to be over top of whatever x is there. It has to match. When I multiply by 1, I'm going to bring this negative 2 down also. When I multiply by 1, I get x squared plus 2x minus 3. I'm subtracting. These cancel. This gives me an x, and this gives me a positive 1. This is a remainder. Your remainder has to go in with this equation where it says plus x plus 1 over what you divided by, x squared plus 2x minus 3. Here is the solution to that when there is a remainder. The last thing we need to talk about is synthetic division. Synthetic division is the same thing as long division except for easier. Okay. You hate synthetic?
No, it's healthier.
Oh, that's healthy. Okay, so if I have x to the fourth minus 10x squared minus 2x plus 4, and I want to divide by x plus 3. Okay? To set up synthetic division, you do this. You take the leading coefficients of all of these numbers, and you put them into this like little half box thing. Now, the leading coefficient of x to the fourth is 1. I do not have a cube, so I have to put a 0. I have squared, and that's negative 10. I have an x, and I have a constant. Now, I am dividing by whatever this is. Now, if it says x equals, I divide by the number it equals. If it says x plus 3, I divide by the opposite of what this sign is. So it's going to be negative 3 instead of positive 3. To do synthetic division, you drop down the 1, and you say 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. You add these numbers together, so I get negative 3. Negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. Add those together, I get negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 3 is 3. Add those together, you get 1. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. Add those together, you get 1. So, then I can change this back into an actual equation. Because this was to the fourth, when I divide by 1x, this is going to make this cubed. So I have x cubed minus 3x squared minus x plus 1, and this is my remainder, plus 1 over x plus 3. There is synthetic division. Much quicker. Let's look at another synthetic division one. Let me see if I have one without a remainder. Okay, let's talk about one without a remainder. It says show that x minus 2 and x plus 3 x minus 2 and x plus 3 are factors of f of x equals 2x to the 4th plus 7x cubed minus 4x squared minus 27x minus 18. Okay? To show that both are factors, I'm going to use synthetic division twice. I'm going to say 2, 7, negative 4, negative 27, negative 18. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use positive 2 because I have to take the opposite of what that is. So I'm going to say 2 and 4. This gives me 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, which gives me 22. 22 minus 4 is, I can't think, 18? Yeah. And then 18 times 2 is 36. 36 minus 27 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18, which gives me a 0. That proves that that was a 0 of that. Now I'm going to take this answer and I'm going to take negative 3 into it. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. 11 minus 6 is 5. 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. That gives me positive 3, and 3 times negative 3 is 9, giving me 0. So there is how I prove that those are zeros of that function. Now, this remaining factor, because I started with the 4th power, I went down to cube here. Now I'm at squared. It says 2x squared plus 5x plus 3. I need to factor that. So I have 2x, I have x, I have 3, I have 1. So my factors of this equation were x minus 2, x plus 3, 2x plus 3, and x plus 1. Now I have finished that equation all the way. Okay? I proved that they were factors of it, and I also solved the rest of the factors for it. Okay, that is what's going to be on your homework.